Hello, this is Scott Harney from Esoteric Guides, and we're here with Alan Steinfeld from New Realities, and this is a joint production, and we are doing the show Revealing the Prophecy, and we are going to delve into one of the most profound spiritual predictions of our time, the coming of the Kalki avatar, and I'm going to let Lynn in, and the harbinger of transformation and the beacon of a new age of enlightenment. Actually, we hope. So to guide us through this fascinating exploration is Mark Amaru Pinkham. He's a renowned author, lecturer, and mystic who has spent. Lynn, you might just turn your mic off. There we go. Great. How you doing, Lynn? Well, there we go. And he spent over 3 decades unraveling the mysteries of ancient wisdom traditions. He's written such great works as Return of the Serpents of Wisdom and Guardians of the Holy Grail. Mark's the leading authority on esoteric history, sacred geometry, and the global wisdom teachings that transcend time and wisdom. In his unique ability to synthesize all these traditions, it gives you a really profound perspective on the Kalki prophecy. So we're honored, because this is really the first time, Mark, that you've actually talk publicly, I think, about the Kalki avatar. This is a pretty important event. So so we're gonna let you get into it. And I just want to hear your journey into this sort of revelation. And welcome.
Yeah, thank you, Scott. Great to be here. Yes, Sanat Kumara, who's my guide, my teacher, my guardian angel, has been giving me some major downloads over the last couple of years regarding the days to come. And so a lot of the information I'll be talking about with you tonight comes from him. Also, of course, having written 9 books over the years, I've accumulated quite a database of information, and I'll draw from that. And I've also traveled quite a bit around the world studying with the native historians and spiritual teachers. So I'm drawing from different sources, but primarily it'll come through my mystical experiences and direct revelations I've had with Sanat Kumara over the last couple of years, and actually over my entire life, because he's been there from day one.
Great. And also, I neglected, Alan, why don't you come on for a second and introduce yourself as well? Because I think you've interviewed.
Yes, I've interviewed a lot of people about a lot of prophecies, and it's always nice to know how you connect to the source. I mean, I've been doing interviews for 30 years, heard lots of prophecies. Some came true, some didn't. How did you connect to Sanat Kumar, and what level of you are out of the way in these transmissions? That's sort of what I would love to know.
Well, the transmissions started, like I said, a couple of years ago. I have been psychically connected to Sanat Kumara for many years, but he stepped up the transmissions and the downloads because of the times we're living in. I thought maybe it'd be good to first introduce who Sanat Kumara is, to give people an idea who aren't familiar with him. He's actually the leader of the 7 Elohim that originated in the Pleiades and then set off and created the entire universe. In the Bible, these 7 Elohim are known as, or referred to as, the 7 candles before the throne of God. And Sanat Kumara has many different names. You might know him as Saint Michael, or Melchizedek, or Enki, or the Peacock Angel. And he and the 7 Elohim also have many names. They're known as Sanat Kumaran, the seven Kumaras, or Saint Michael and the seven archangels, Enki and the seven Anunnaki, or Tausi Malek, which is a name for him amongst the Yazidis of northern Iraq, Tausi Malek and his seven angels, and also the spirits of the seven stars of the Pleiades. So they're directly connected to the Pleiades.
So what does
And
Sanat, what's the name actually mean when they, is it, it sounds like more of a title in a way than a actual
well,
name.
it is, yeah. Sanat is the eternal, forever eternal young one, basically. Yeah. Now, when the Elohim, the seven Elohim, came to Earth, they became known in the histories as the seven sages who went around the globe building the megalithic pyramids and temples that you still see today. And at that time, Sanat Kumara became what's known as the planetary logos, the spirit, the mind, and will of Earth. So it is essentially his will that directs the affairs of humanity on our planet. Today, Sanat Kumara resides in an imperial city in the legendary country, the mysterious country of Shambhala in the Himalayas of Tibet. Now, Shambhala is the crown chakra of Earth. So while sitting in his throne in the center of Shambhala in a 5-storied temple, which is composed of many amplifying metals and gems, Sanat Kumara can amplify his will and then transmit it into the planetary grid and thereby encircle the planet with it.
Mark, I have a quick question. Is Shambhala a physical place or a liminal place?
It's absolutely a physical place.
It is, okay.
And even the Dalai Lama would say that and has said it.
Well,
the reason it seems like it's not is because so few people have actually made it there, hardly any. But for example, the Panchen Lama, which is second in command under the Dalai Lama, he has made it there. And during the time that he was 13th, I guess it was 13th Panchen Lama, I think, when he was alive, he actually wrote a book on it. I think it was called something like The Way to Shambhala. Sanat Kumara tells me that besides him, only Buddha has been in Shambhala, and apparently Jesus, when he was Isa and roaming around Eastern Asia, he also visited there. So there's very, very few people that have gone there.
Well, some people say it's actually the inner earth. Nicholas Roerich may have gone there. What do you think about that? That it's in the earth?
Well, it is connected to Agartha, but Agartha is really the inner earth. You might say that it's the inner earth manifestation of Shambhala. But Shambhala does have above surface manifestation, and it exists about 12,000 feet up in the Himalayas.
It's related to that movie, that old movie Shangri-La, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Right.
So, all right, it's a physical place, you're saying, with physical being, but Sanat Kumara is more than a physical being. He's a ascended being, isn't he?
Well, exactly. Yeah. Sanat Kumara, one of his names is actually the Ancient of Days. And you might know the Ancient of Days is actually a name for the demiurgos, if you will, the what we would call the original form of God, which is also known as Allah, Jehovah, Yahweh, all the different names. So he, in a sense, he is God in physical form. And he was the first form of God. When the infinite spirit went to create this universe, it had to take a limited form in order to do that, and that is Sanat Kumara.
So he has some predictions for our times. You want to jump into that?
Yes, well, sure.
I mean, if you let you have something, Scott. Go.
Well,
Okay,
what?
sure. Go
I
ahead.
think,
Yeah,
yeah, I mean,
because
I mean, you mentioned the signs of the Kalki avatar coming.
because we were going to kind of work
Yeah,
into that, but
yeah.
Yeah, sorry. Go ahead. Go ahead. Let's work into it so people get a bigger understanding. You're right.
yeah, I think the way I had it lined out is going to help people to get a basis to work from here.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Yeah. So anyway, I just wanted to mention also that my relationship with Sanat Kumra, my personal relationship, has been throughout my life, and it began when I was a teenager, and began studying theosophy. Much of the information about him can be found in The Secret Doctrine, Alice Bailey's writings, and other theosophical texts. So if you want to know more about him, those are good resources for you. And then, of course, through many experiences, direct experiences I've had later on in life, I came to know him as my spiritual guide and my guardian angel. And then in 1987, which was the year of the harmonic convergence, Sanat Kumra contacted me at that time and then guided me to Sedona for the first time and to his ancient court. So apparently what I found when I came to Sedona is that he has another court. He has two courts in this world. He's got the one in Shambhala, and he has kind of a secondary one here in Sedona. Once I arrived in Sedona and started looking around, Sanat Kumra opened my third eye at that time, so I could see not just how it looks today, but how it looked originally and still does on the fifth dimension. And you can, if you have fifth dimensional sight, you can see Sedona, how it originally looked. And many people are being drawn to Sedona now to see that. But if you see it on the physical plane, you'll see that there's a lot of red rock formations that appear to be quite eroded. They are actually the remains of ancient temple structures, but Sedona has been completely immersed in water at least 3 different times, which is why these temples are so eroded, and they're made out of sandstone, and sandstone by nature erodes pretty easily. But at the same time that I have seen his second court, I've seen basically all of Sedona. And according to Sanat Kumra in very, very ancient times, this was the place on the planet, the most important city outside of Shambhala. And he's shown me all the different fifth dimensional palaces and castles and temples. It's just really a mind blower to see it. But also, after I saw these temples and went back home to Washington State, I had another experience with Sanat Kumara when I was walking out in the rainforest of Washington State. At one point, I stopped and I prayed intensely to Sanat to give me some wisdom regarding my past and my future, what I'm here to do. And then at that point, Sanat appeared to me in this big, bright, white ball of light. And then he proceeded to reveal to me that in past lives, I've been part of some spiritual governments on Earth. And then in this life, I would again serve that function in a future cycle. And he has since apparently been guiding me and training me for that time. And Sanat Kumra also guided me to revive the Order of the Seven Rays. Some of you that are listening to this podcast might be familiar with the Order of the Seven Rays. It was founded by Sanat Kumara in order to spread the wisdom and spiritual practices that are associated with human evolution and enlightenment that he brought with him from the Pleiades. Well, we need that wisdom now in order to prepare for the coming cycle, which will be a cycle of enlightenment. It will be a golden age for sure. And so ever since he asked me to revive the Order of the Seven Rays, which I've done, and we have it headquartered here in Sedona. He has been directing that order and school from Shambhala through sending me numerous psychic messages. But as I said, right now, what's most important is the intense downloads that he's been giving me for the last 2 years.
Are you the only person he's talking to, or does he have other people he's talking with?
Well, other people claim that he's talking to them, but every time I listen to one of them, I would ask Sanat Kumara, are they really in touch with you? Are they really channeling you? And every time he would say no. So that's the answer I can give you right now.
All right.
The reason he told me that he's connected with me is we have some past connection to Pleiades, that I'm part of his soul family, that I have special work to do with the Kalki avatar in the future. And in fact, he is going to, or he has already incarnated as the Kalki avatar, and I'm going to go into depth in who and what the Kalki avatar is.
Yes, that's good. Go. I mean, that's interesting. Yeah.
Right. Well, Sanat Kumara, he tells me about 2,000 years ago, in anticipation for these times that we are living in now, that he actually split his soul in two identical souls. And so right now, his Pleiadian form that he's existed in for thousands of years in Shambhala has one of those souls, and the other soul is incarnating as the Kalki avatar. And why did he choose to incarnate in the Kalki avatar? Is because the Kalki avatar is prophesied to be the most powerful, the most strongest of all the avatars. And for those of you that are not aware of it, the avatars include Krishna and Rama and Buddha, the great masters of ancient times who have come here in order to save humanity and save the planet. But Sanat Kumara is incarnating himself as the Kalki avatar because he himself is the most powerful being that exists basically within this universe. And so by incarnating as the Kalki avatar, he will, in a sense, make that the most powerful of all the avatars. And that is the prophecy, that the Kalki avatar will be more powerful than any other that has come before him. And so...
But wait, 1 second. Please give us like the aspects of what avatars do. I mean, how will he be more powerful? I mean, Jesus and Buddha, they were pretty amazing. So
absolutely.
How will he be more powerful?
Well, there's one way, is that most of the enlightened masters, when they achieve enlightenment, they gain a certain number of special abilities or powers, what they call cities. And there's 8 basic cities that they gain. Some gain another 10, making it 18. And typically an avatar will gain maybe 10 more above that. But Sanat Kumara himself wields 64 cities, 64 powers, including the power to basically dissolve the entire universe with one thought, if he wants to. And so the Kalki avatar is going to have all those 64 cities. He's going to wield the power of all 64 of them. That's what's going to make him so special.
But whoever named those cities must have been aware of the cities themselves in order to name them, right? So,
Oh, yeah.
who's documented all these different cities?
Whoever Sanat Kumara transmitted that information to, because he's the only one that really knows.
Right.
It's like, think that he is the very first form of the infinite God. And so he, as the first form, has all the powers of God, all the powers of the infinite and the finite God, the formless and the form God. He himself wields all of those powers and has all of that knowledge and all of that wisdom. He contains all of it collectively.
Okay. Sounds good. Yes. Well, Scott, anything?
No, I just you mentioned he's the last avatar. Why is he considered the last avatar?
Yeah, that's a good question. You see, what's going to happen as soon as Kalki appears within the world, makes his presence known, which is going to happen when he leaves Shambhala. He's now in Shambhala. He will leave Shambhala, and then he will make his presence known. At the time that he's making his presence known, Sanat Kumara in his Pleiadian body is going to be leaving this planet. He's been the planetary logos for 18 million years. His stint as the planetary logos is over, and now he is going to return to the Pleiades and exist within a 5D body, fifth dimensional body in a fifth dimensional universe. At the same time he does that, the Kalki avatar will then take his seat in Shambhala as the planetary logos, as the king of the world. Now, when Kalki completes his mission of destroying the corruption and the evil and the unrighteousness on this planet and restores the Dharma, the righteousness, when he completes that mission, then he will return to Shambhala as the king of the world. And then he will officially take up his duties as the planetary logos, king of the world. But unlike other avatars who, once they finish their mission, they leave this world, Kalki is not going to leave. He is going to stay here and occupy that throne in Shambhala indefinitely. So there'll be no need for there to be avatars to come in the future, because there's always going to be one here on the planet. That makes sense?
Yeah, but I'm not getting any details, like how are things going to change? What's going to be different about Earth and consciousness and evolution? How will humans change?
Well, what's going to be happening, and I can, and this goes back to cycles, okay? And in 2012, December 21st, 2012, all cycles ended. That was a time when our solar system was in direct alignment with the center of the Milky Way galaxy. All cycles ended, and the Mayan calendar officially ended at that time. The Mayan calendar was considered to be the most precise calendar that ever was created on planet Earth, and it officially ended, in a sense saying, this is the end of time. Time is ended, right? And what are the cycles that ended on that day? Well, we have the age of Pisces. We have what the Native Americans call the fourth world. We have what the Hindus call the Kali Yuga. All these cycles ended on that day. And what we have now, since that time, is we have an 80-year period to prepare for the next cycle, which is Satya Yuga. It's the golden age. This is what all the prophecies say, all the Hindu prophecies say, that following the advent of the Kalki avatar will come the golden age, the Satya Yuga. And this Satya Yuga, according to Sanat Kumara, has the potential of being the greatest of all Satya Yugas. And of course, there's been many of them because everything comes in cycles. But this will be one of the greatest of all. And one reason for that is because we are going to be reconnecting with our star ancestors, our star race, which is the Pleiades. And of course, he has a very strong connection with the Pleiades himself because he is a Pleiadian. In fact, all the seven Elohim are Pleiadians. All the seven Kumaras are Pleiadians. So part of the Satya Yuga, well, Satya Yuga is also known as the fifth world and the age of Aquarius. It's all about bringing people in the world together as one world family. And what is going to bring us together, or one of the things that will bring us together, is the knowledge that we have a common star ancestry. In fact, we are basically all Pleiadians. And this is what the Maya said, some of the greatest astronomers ever, is that our sun is the eighth star of the Pleiades, which means that we are and always have been Pleiadians here. All right.
It's just that, I mean, the perspective when we look at the Pleiades, I don't know how many light years away, but we're connected to that constellation in proximity, in that sense, you're saying?
Our sun, every 26,000 years, revolves around Alcyone, which is the centermost star of the Pleiades, the precession of the equinoxes. And that revolution is actually in the shape of an ellipse. And so as the sun moves around that ellipse, at certain times it's going to come closer to Alcyone. And those are the times that we have the Satya Yugas. So we're as close as you can get right now on that ellipse cycle.
Right.
But we're going to find but Satya Yuga, Satya means truth. And in Satya Yuga, we're going to learn the truth of our ancestry, where we come from, our star race, the whole truth about why we were created, how the universe was created, why it was created. Basically, what we're all about, what life on Earth in a human body is really all about and was meant to be about. According to Sanat Kumara, this universe was created by these Elohim so that this soul could know itself as God, and it would know itself through a physical form, a human physical form. And this is one reason that the Elohim created Earth. It's within the Pleiadian star group is considered to be a very, very sacred planet because it's on the Earth that a soul can take a physical human form and achieve God realization. It must be in a physical form in order to achieve that God realization. And why is that? Well, because when a human takes a physical form, or a soul takes a physical form, it feels separate from everything in creation, and it goes in search of what it is all about, what life is all about. And that over maybe a few lifetimes is going to culminate in finding a teacher that will lead them inside themselves so that they can know that they are actually God. You see, according to Sanat Kumara, the whole universe started with Shiva saying, I am. And that in itself catalyzed the creation of the universe so that Shiva could know, I am what? I am this. I am that. What am I? I am. And eventually that would lead to the realization of Shiva within a physical body saying, I am God. I know myself. I know what I am. I am the infinite. I am the creator of this universe. That is what this universe is all about. And this is what we're going to find out. There is a reason why we're here. There is a reason for this universe. It just didn't arbitrarily and incidentally just manifest. It is a reason for it. And the universe is very similar to the same universes that have been created over and over and over again by billions of days and nights of Brahma. This isn't the first time this has happened. And every time it happens, it's the same 7 Kumaras, the same 7 archangels that go ahead and create it for the same purpose.
Mark, you mentioned that the Pleiadians would make themselves known to general humanity in 2033. Maybe you can get a little bit in about that. People are very concerned about the UAPs, increase in UAP events, unmanned aerial unknown area phenomena, and also these drones. So maybe you could talk a little bit about that in relation to the Kalki avatar.
Yeah. Well, I think it's pretty clear that those UAP drones are not alien ships by now. Hopefully, it's people have realized that. Well, you see, the thing of it is, Sanat Kumara determines what alien races can be here on our planet. He, as a planetary logos, he knows everything's happening in every moment. And if he doesn't want them to be here, they won't be here. They can't come here within our biosphere. They cannot be here.
But you're saying they're all military, but what about the ones that look like plasma and energy? Have you seen those images?
Well, that's different, of course.
Yeah. I mean, what are those, and why are they here?
No, those are also those are definitely intelligences, but most of the intelligences that reveal themselves and have revealed themselves are Pleiadians, most of them. All right. But if there are others from other star races, they're only doing it because they're only here because they have the permission of Sanat Kumara to be here. The reason that our planet has not been conquered a million different times by now by more advanced star races is because we're protected by the Pleiadians, and we're protected by Sanat Kumara himself, who has all these 64 cities that no other being in the entire universe has. In fact, what he tells me is that it's known by these other races, those star races, that he is the creator of this universe, and he does possess these amazing powers. And so they have a lot of respect for him, and they won't overextend themselves, overreach what the opportunities they are given in order to come to Earth and make contact with humanity.
So how does the consciousness shift for humans? What is the primary effect, and what's about our evolution?
Well, consciousness is going to shift through the alchemy. You see, the Pleiadians, one thing about the Pleiadians, and this goes back to your question, Scott, is the Pleiadians are well known for possessing the greatest amount of wisdom regarding alchemical transformation than any of the other star races. Now, according to Sanat Kumar says that Pleiadians have always been living in proximity to him. So right now there's 900 Pleiadians living in Shambhala. And he's saying in the next decade, and he even gave me a date, 2033, that they are going to leave Shambhala and then become integrated into the world. But also at that time, and Kalki is going to assist this process, so Kalki Avatar will then also negotiate with world leaders to have some of these Pleiadians come to their various countries to share their extremely advanced technologies. And of course, a lot of their technology is related to alchemy, the different forms of alchemy. You know, Sanat Kumara that originally brought all the yoga traditions, all the alchemy, everything that all the different practices that we do in order to alchemically transform so that we can become God realized. And these practices typically go to activating the Kundalini, because that's the evolutionary force in our body. Once the Kundalini is activated, then we will evolve. All alchemy eventually goes to activate that energy.
Well, that's the key point. What are these practices? Well,
we know them certainly as yoga, meditation, but you see, Sanat Kumara, he founded the lineages of Satgurus that exist on the planet today. And we are getting to know Satgurus, and we have for the last 50 years, because some of them have been coming from India to the States. They have the power through their mind, through a thought, word, look, or touch, to transmit a particle of their Kundalini into a disciple and activate their Kundalinis. And when that occurs, they can then control the ascent of that Kundalini within their disciple from the base of the spine to the crown of the head. And these are fully enlightened Satgurus, fully enlightened God-realized beings. And of course, only a God-realized being can make another person God-realized. So that's according to Sanat Kumara, there's going to be many, many more Satgurus on the planet than there are now. And there's just a handful of them now. But during the time of the Satya Yuga, there'll be many more. And there's also going to be a lot more ashrams where people will go to study yoga, to live the yoga teachings. There'll be a lot more temples. There'll be Sedona itself. There'll be a lot of people coming here. Sedona itself was created by the Pleiadians so that people from around the planet could come here for Kundalini activation. This is, in Sedona, the root chakra of the earth. And many of the temples that are here and that they created originally are specifically designed for Kundalini activation. In fact, there's one that exists right in the very center of this 50-mile diameter vortex we have here in Sedona. It's right in the very center. And that was created specifically for Kundalini activation. It supposedly it was an active temple, and there's ways to enter it.
Which one is that? Where is that center in Sedona?
That's in Boynton Canyon.
Oh,
have you been into Boynton Canyon?
Yes, I've had very powerful experiences in Boynton Canyon.
That's the place. That's. See, Sedona is like the second imperial city to Shambhala. And so the focus of the imperial city is Boynton Canyon, or the court of the king in Boynton Canyon. That is the most important place. That's the center of the power. And I've seen it in so many different dimensions. It's unbelievable. But what is predicted is that if you study the Apocalypse, you study Revelations, it talks about the New Jerusalem, or the heavenly Jerusalem, coming down and settling on earth. And what that means is that the 5D world that surrounds our earth, known as Buvar Loka, is going to descend down to certain places on the earth, such as Sedona. And then what's in Buvar Loka? Well, you see, the originally the earth and Sedona and some of these major places on the earth were created as exact replica or 3D manifestations of this 5D Buvar Loka. Sedona was an exact replica of it originally. Okay, but the 5D Buvar Loka Sedona never changes, but the 3D Buvar Loka does change because it's 3D, because of weather changes and floods and so forth and so on. But what's going to happen is that 5D Sedona is going to come back. It's going to settle back down onto the 3D Sedona, and then according to Sanat, it's going to actually become physical again, right? And so what I see, or what other people see when they see 5D Sedona today, that is going to be physical. That's going to become physical again, just like it was in very, very ancient times. And so all these temples and palaces and castles and everything that are in Sedona will be physical, according to him. And this, like I'm telling you, this is biblical. It does say that there's a heavenly realm that is going to set down onto the physical world, and it'll be the New Jerusalem, and that's it. Sedona is going to be the New Jerusalem, according to Sanat Kumara. It's going to be the most sacred place on the planet.
Scott, any comments?
No, it's fascinating. I feel the energy when I go to Sedona, the same thing. I mean, I really believe it is the root chakra of the world. It's fascinating. Now, you mentioned that we are all Pleiadians. Could you elaborate on that? I mean, I'm sort of thinking of Zecharia Sitchin's works, talking about how the Anunnaki came down and sort of engineered us. I mean, when you say we are all Pleiadians, what does that mean? Do we have that genetic compound in us?
Well, we do. Sanat Kumara also told me, and this is what I'm telling you now is kind of similar to some information that was channeled through Edgar Cayce. Edgar Cayce said that modern humans were created in 5 places, or the 5 races were created one time in 5 different places around the planet. What Sanat Kumara says is that modern humans were actually created about 500,000 years ago on Lemuria, that great continent that stretched across the Pacific that so many teachings say was the original cradle of humanity. And what Sanat Kumara says is that those 7 Elohim took physical human male bodies, and then they created 7 female humans. And then they mated with the 7 female humans. And their descendants are basically everybody in this world. Okay. So they did that in Kauai, and the main race that they created on Kauai was the white race. They also did this in Atlantis, and they created the red race. The red tribes all say they came from Atlantis. The black race was created in Sri Lanka, was part of Lemuria. And then you had the yellow race in what's now Kurdistan and Iraq. And then the final race, the brown race, was actually created in a place in South America known as Paititi, the lost, which we associate with El Dorado, the lost El Dorado, the lost Paititi. So they had occurred in those 5 places all at once. And so because the Kumaras were involved with creating all these different 5 races, their DNA has filtered down to all of us. Everybody has most of the star race DNA. Everyone has in their physical body because of that. It's Pleiadian DNA. But the differences between a Pleiadian and a human, the Pleiadians don't naturally have Kundalini. This is why the Elohim didn't have Kundalini in their body, so they created the 7 human females to have the Kundalini in their body, so they would mate with them, and that all the human species would then all have the Kundalini. Okay, and that's what separates us from most of all the star races throughout the universe. We have that Kundalini. They do not have that Kundalini. That's why it's impossible for them to achieve God realization. They don't have that Kundalini. That was special for us.
Well, talk about that then. What is why is that? Isn't it? What is the Kundalini? Why is it so special?
Well, it is the evolutionary force. It was the force that was planted in our body and normally lies dormant. I mean, there's actually 2 aspects of the Kundalini. There's a mundane Kundalini and there's a spiritual Kundalini. The mundane Kundalini is always awake. All right. It feeds your entire body through the 72,000 nadis or channels that reach every part of your body. But when you're ready to know God, you're ready to achieve God realization, you've reached that point in your evolution, then your Kundalini becomes active. It can be spontaneously activated or can be activated through spiritual practices or through the transmission of Kundalini through a Satguru. But once it's awakened, it moves up the spine, and it moves through those 72,000 nadis to purify the body and to activate the chakra centers. Each chakra center is a center of power and of wisdom. And as it moves up through the body, this Kundalini, it also works to basically transform and destroy all parts of a person that keep them from knowing their divine nature, which includes the ego, which includes toxic emotions, wrong ideas about reality, all these kind of things that keep us from knowing our divine nature are transformed, purified, and released until we get to the third eye. And the third eye is our receptor. And at that point, we can receive any kind of information we want from any part of the universe, but we're still not God realized at that point. To get from the third eye to the crown chakra, you have to have a Satguru. I mean, this is what all the sages and saints and Satgurus have said from time immemorial. You've got to have a Satguru that will take you from the third eye to the crown chakra. So this is why Satgurus are so valuable, and when we have so many of them during Satya Yuga, because of them, it's really going to be a time of enlightenment, and there'll be many people all over the planet that will have the opportunity to achieve it at that time.
You mentioned, Mark, there are some Satgurus now on the planet, but not that many. Who do you consider are the Satgurus right now? Is that something you're willing to?
Well, I can only say for sure about one of them. And the one I'm going to tell you is also an avatar. And her name's Matamitananda Mai, who's better known as Amma, or the Hugging Saint. She is a Satguru, and she's also an avatar. She She is the avatar of goddess Sophia. Sophia is actually is the goddess of the universe. And Amma, or Matamitanadamai, she has incarnated many times in the past, but every time she incarnates, she is an avatar because she's an avatar of Sophia. And so she has come for the same reason that Kalki is going to be coming. There's going to be two avatars that are going to purify the planet, going to help to rid it of corruption, of evil, of hate, and to restore the Dharma. Now, Amma is very explicit about this, that one of the reasons she is here is to restore the Dharma, the righteousness on this planet, which basically means to help people to get back into alignment with spirit as best she can. And she is, to do that, she is helping to revive the ancient tradition of Sanatana Dharma to do that. And also, of course, teaching the path of Bhakti Yoga, the path of love. Because what is going to better help us to reunite and come together as a people is love. That's the main thing. And what's going to help us to restore the Dharma and to act in righteousness is love for ourselves and love for others. So this is a very, very important part of the restoration of the Dharma. So she was my teacher. She's been one of my teachers for many years. And I can attest through having amazing experiences with her that she is the real deal. But I can't say that I have been in touch with other Satgurus other than her, to tell you the truth. I mean, other than, Sanat Kumara, but besides those two, I can't say that I've been in touch with others. Sanat tells me that there are others, but they're mainly focused in India. They're not as well known as Amma. But there aren't other Sadgurus in other parts of the world. Because why? Is because the Sadgurus usually come out of traditions, yoga traditions. And those traditions are based in India. They're based in Tibet, India, and in the East. And we don't have those here in the West. And also it's because in the West, so many people think they can do it on their own. Of course, you can't find one that's actually been able to do that, but they believe they can. And unfortunately, gurus have acquired a bad name in the West because of the exploitation of gurus that have come over here, how they've exploited their own disciples and students in the past. And so they have acquired a really bad reputation for themselves and basically all gurus. So in the West right now, we're really shying away from gurus, and we've decided we can do it on our own, but we can't. And that's something we're going to learn. And you're not going to find anybody that has done it on their own without a Satguru in the West. It's just not going to happen. So this is part of the truth that needs to come out, is that and see, there's another reason why the Sadguru is so valuable, is because a person will go through many lifetimes and many incarnations during which they're generating a lot of karma. In fact, they're creating mountains of karma that they need to burn up in future lifetimes, right? And so every lifetime they take a chunk of that little mountain, and that becomes their prarabdha for that lifetime. But the problem is, during that lifetime, they create more karma, and that karma goes back into that mountain and kind of makes up for the chunk they are living as their prarabdha karma. So it's nearly impossible to burn up that mountain of karma. And really, the only way you can do it is through a Sadguru. Through a Sadguru will take on your mountain of karma and burn it within themselves, consume it within themselves, and there's no more karma. You cannot achieve God realization unless you have burned up all that karma, because you have a debt here on planet Earth. So you got to be coming back to meet that debt, to fulfill that debt. So it's only a Sadguru that can do that. And so when you have a lot of Sadgurus roaming the planet, as we will during Satya Yuga, they'll be able to burn up people's karma. And at that point, it's said that at the most you'll have 3 more lifetimes, and that's at the most. And a lot of people will be able to do it on the same lifetime, especially during the Satya Yuga period.
Now, Mark, you mentioned 144,000 individuals in relation to this. They merged their Kalki avatar. Well, what is that about?
Well, the 144,000, they are they are the Pleiadians that originally came with Sanat Kumara 18 million years ago. They are kind of like you might say, his assistants. And every time that he incarnates, they also incarnate as his assistants. Now, right now, he is incarnated as the Kalki avatar. So many of them have incarnated in order to assist Kalki in his mission. And the prophecy is that Kalki is going to have his own spiritual army to assist him, and those are these 144,000. And so within the next 5-10 years, it's going to become evident who these 144,000 people, spiritual soldiers are that are going to be assisting Kalki, where they are, where they're going to come from.
Yeah, that sort of brings into a question: what role do we all play in this sort of awakening?
Well, everyone has its own role, but the main thing you can do, or we all can do, is to focus on our spiritual practices. The more we focus on our spiritual practices, the more we are evolving ourselves, but we're also creating a more higher frequency ambience throughout the whole entire planet, right? To help usher in the Satya Yuga. But we need to do our own spiritual practices in order to basically be part of the Satya Yuga period. Most of us in body right now are not going to make it, right? Let's face it. I mean, unless you're pretty young, we're quite young, right? Because it's a 80-year window we're looking at here now. But if you do your practices now, then you are setting the stage for the Satya Yuga. You're raising the frequency of Earth, and you are then becoming eligible to incarnate into the new Satya Yuga cycle in your next incarnation. And that'll be a huge boost for you, because like I said, it'll be probably the most spiritual times ever existed on this planet. And if you incarnate during the Satya Yuga, you've got an excellent chance of making it to God realization in just one lifetime.
Could you
oh, go ahead.
actually go ahead? No, good, Ellen.
No, I was just going to say, well, we've been here many, many lifetimes, most of us, and we've evolved, and it seems like a lot of us are ready, I don't know who, for this next level where it's no longer the external guru, but it's the emanations of the divine within. What do you feel about that?
No, I think that's actually true. But the external guru is actually a reflection of the inner guru. because they're both the self. They're both pure conscious. They're both Shiva. And so Shiva, what better teacher than Shiva himself to guide you into your own inner Guru, your own Shiva. The problem is that most people have a difficult time to differentiate their ego, what's coming from their ego, as opposed to what's coming from the inner Shiva. Very difficult time. And it's really nearly impossible. And a physical guru can help you to do that. You know, they can they know what is your ego and what isn't. But the ego is so strong, you know, it's always going to try to convince you that it is, you know, that you are, that it's going to show you the right path. But like I said, Alan, there's so many people that think they can do it on their own, but I challenge you to show me one person who's been able to actually do it and achieve God realization. And the reason they can't do it is because the ego is so strong, it's nearly impossible for them to go beyond their own ego. And the ego is the biggest obstacle on the spiritual path. It's identifying with something limited when what you really want to do is identify with the infinite.
Well, a lot of us are identified with the infinite. I mean, if, as much as we can with still having a personality, right? Don't you have to transcend?
Yeah, well, that's okay. But the thing of it is, it's very difficult to be objective enough to see what is the ego telling you, what is the ego that's telling you this, and what is truth, what really is true. If you really are, you know, living the life of the infinite, it's nearly impossible. And like I said, if you can find me one person that can do it or had done it, please send them over, because I haven't.
Well, haven't you? Where are you in your evolution?
Where am I?
Yeah.
Well, I don't know that I can really tell you. I can't tell you. I don't know. I know that my teachers, my gurus, no, they can tell you that information in 30 seconds in your presence. But do I really know? No, I can't. How could I possibly know, really? You know, because how can I really even know what God realization is until I experience it?
Well, maybe you've had glimpses of samadhi or maybe you haven't. I don't know, but maybe, you know, you're doing this work. You're professing the knowledge, so you're on a mission to help others, right?
Well, that's right, but I can only take them up as high as I have attained myself, which I don't really know how high that is. The one thing I do know is that I'm not a God realized master, because I'm one thing I'm sure of, and I've been told by my teachers, you know when you're there, you know when you're God realized. I mean, there's no question at all. And as long as there is a question, you're not God realized, and there is a question there. But yes, I am hoping that I will be able to get there in this incarnation. In fact, Sanat Kumara is working on me daily to get me there. I've got this kind of envelope of frequency around me 24/7, making these different noises, and this is how he's working on me. He's generating these different frequencies in order to raise the frequency of all my cells in all my body, and activate, you know, all my brain cells to take me to God realization. But that's all I know for sure. When it's going to happen, how, you know, when it's going to happen, that I really can't say.
Well, but you are predicting a kind of awakening for the planet, right? Isn't that what the Satya Guru Yuga is all about?
Well, absolutely, yeah. And I think that it's there's going to be many people that will achieve the goal during the Satya Yuga period. That's prophecy. That's what always happens in the Satya Yuga.
When will that happen? What year?
That is going to happen 2092, because it's 80 years after 2012. We'll be officially there at that point. But after 2029, Now this is a pivotal year, and this is a year that was prophesied in a scripture that was written 600 years ago by 5 enlightened masters who incarnated specifically to write the scripture. And in the scripture, they talk about so much that will be happening and is happening at this time. And what they say is after 2012, there is going to be a period that in the Bible is referred to as the time of the Antichrist. That's going to stir up tremendous amount of karma that needs to be completely wiped away, completely burned out before we can really start moving towards the Satya Yuga. And what they predict in that scripture is that the pivotal year, that cutoff point where we've actually gone through that mass of karma, is 2029, which I find interesting. Is it's the year after Trump ends his term in office.
So, all right, well, that's kind of a shift. And how do the ETs fit into that?
Well, it's the 666. I asked Sonat about that, and he agreed that yes, Trump is the Antichrist, but he says if you want to know more, study the 666. And the 666, of course, as we know, is the number of the Antichrist, and it says in the Bible it's the number of a man. So throughout much of history, those people that have studied Revelations have associated the 666 with the Emperor Nero, because by Hebrew gematria, Caesar Nero comes out to 666. But of course, Emperor Nero did not live during the apocalypse. Well, what I have discovered, and what Sanat has told me, is that Emperor Nero incarnated this time as Trump. And so the 666 of his soul that is now Trump will actually be present during the apocalypse. And it isn't Sanat Kumara, it's actually Kevin Ryerson and some psychics that I've studied that they say the same thing. In fact, Kevin Ryerson said that Trump was the Antichrist way before Trump ever even took office the first time. He just knew it.
Is Kevin Ryerson still around? I haven't heard from him in a while.
As far as I know, he is. I mean, I haven't heard any different. So,
but before we get into all that sort of political stuff, what is that scroll you talked about that was written 600 years ago?
It's called the Bhavishya Malika. And like I said, it's written by 5 enlightened masters who incarnated specifically for the purpose. And in that scripture, it talks about signs at this time in history, the signs of the end of Kali Yuga and signs that there will be of the advent of the Kalki avatar. And most of those signs are associated with the temple in Jagannath Puri in India. And that temple has been called basically the temple of the avatar. And between cycles, always between cycles, when the avatar appears, there are signs at Jagannath Puri that the avatar will be coming. And so the same thing's happening now. Basically, the signs of the Kalki avatar at Jagannath Puri, most of the signs have already happened within the last 20, 30 years.
What are those signs? Can you tell us?
Well, yeah. Getting hit by lightning. Temple gets hit by lightning. That's a major sign. Also, there was this huge block of stone weighing tons that was actually situated on top of the temple, and it was actually like impossible for that to become released from the roof of the temple and to fall down in front of it. But that's what happened, and no one today can figure out how that could have happened. It's impossible. But also, the predictions were that there would be a lot of birds would show up around the temple, the roofs of the temple, include vultures and owls and all kinds of birds that never ever do you find birds flying around the roof of the temples. But within the last 23 years, there's been tons of them that have showed up. So, like I said, there's a number of signs like that in Jagannath Puri. And Jagannath Puri, it's the temple. It's called the temple of the Lord of the Universe, which is actually a name for Sanat Kumara himself. And so when these signs occur, it means that the Lord of the universe has taken body as the avatar. Wow. And one thing that's interesting is that one avatar that was here at the end of Age of Aries, before the age of Pisces began, was Sananda Kumara, that took birth as Jesus. And you might know through the story of Isa that Jesus spent many years in the East. And according to the people at Jagannath Puri Temple, he lived there 18 years. It's like one of the main reasons he went to India was to stay there, because he's an avatar, and that is the avatar. That is the temple of the avatars. I mean, there is documentation showing that he lived there for 18 years.
Well, excuse me, where is this temple exactly?
Odisha it's Jagannath Puri, and it's on Odisha. It used to be a Orissa state. It's called Odisha state now. And it just, you can Google Jagannath Puri Temple. You know, it's well known.
Well, that's fascinating. Really is. Just to go a little bit into the political. Are we going through the apocalypse now? I mean, it certainly seems like it with the genocides, and even today, I just saw someone got lit. You know, someone lit someone on fire in the subway. I mean, we're seeing this horrible violence around the world.
Yeah,
just ignorance everywhere. Could you explain what does the apocalypse look like for us, and when is it going to end?
Well, it's you know that Trump is going to stir the pot, and he's going to express the nature of this Emperor Nero, who was a dictator, and he referred to himself as the chosen one. In fact, Trump has already called himself the chosen one, and he's said that he will be a dictator. And in fact, this what is this? What is it? This is Project 2025. It talks about he being given the powers. Trump will be given the powers of a dictator. All right, and Trump has already said that he would overturn the Constitution. So, and of course, one of the associations of the Antichrist is the mark of the beast, and the mark of the beast is a tattoo that you get on your wrist or you get over your forehead, and you are not allowed to do any business in this world unless you have that mark of the beast. Well, Trump is a businessman. I mean, that's all he really knows about is business, and that's questionable as well whether he does know about that. But it's very likely he will get together with other business people, which he's done, and they will require that. You know, they want to be in control of all the world's wealth that way. They'll control the world's wealth. And so I think that's going to be happening. I really do. I think that, well, you know, besides the 666 in Revelations associated with Trump, what's interesting is that it says that the Antichrist will be in power. His reign will last 42 months. It says this right in Revelations. That's almost exactly the number of months in the term of office of the President of the United States. 42 months. That says right in Revelations. So there's a lot of reason to believe that, you know, the Antichrist is Trump. And you see, Trump is going to, well, Trump is not, he's no saint, he's no Christ. Everything he does is antichrist in all his behaviors. But the Antichrist certainly, if you think of Christ as being the spiritual, Trump is the Antichrist by being the material. All he knows and cares about is money and the material world. And that's the problem with the dark ages we've lived in, is that all people think about and all people worship is money and dollars and possessions. They stray from worshiping a higher presence, a higher order, a higher consciousness of God in any form. And they're stuck in materialism. And so Trump is just going to ramp that up like nobody's business. So it's just going to get stronger and stronger and stronger. And because he could care less about spirituality or why, or of course, he has no idea why a human body even exists. But
Okay.
he is just going to make everything, all the world more, even more materialist than it has been.
But what about us? Where's our power? Give us something people can use to feel empowered.
Well, if you do spiritual practices, I believe that gradually you will feel more empowered. If you connect, and this is, everybody has the opportunity to do this, you connect with Sanat Kumara at this time, you are connecting also with the Kalki avatar. And if you ask him for guidance, and you can also ask him to be your Sat Guru, he's open to all people being their Sat Guru at this time. If you connect with him, he is going to give you guidance that will empower you, and he will lead you onto a path through which you will know what your purpose and place is after 2029, when we really start moving into the Satya Yuga period. So in the meantime, I think it's helpful to bond with other people that have a positive vision of the future and are working towards helping to create that vision, as we are, for example, in the Order of the Seven Rays. And I think you're going to feel empowered through doing that. You're going to get more powered with aligning yourself with like-minded people, for sure. Powers and numbers.
Right. So after 2029, everything turns around and we start to really unfold.
That's exactly right. Yeah.
Well,
Mark, this might be a good opportunity to discuss the Order of Seven Rays, and also how someone can get, because basically they'll be able to study with you, and through you get in touch with Sanat Kumara. So maybe we'll put this obviously in the description, but maybe how does one get involved in studying with you through the Order of the Seven Rays?
Okay, great. Yeah, sure. Well, as I mentioned, the Order of Seven Rays was originally founded by Sanat Kumara in order to teach the wisdom and the alchemical practices that he brought with him from the Pleiades. And so he has had me revive it because it's so important for people to adopt and get involved with those practices now. Okay. And through the practices, you also have an opportunity to not only establish a good, solid spiritual foundation for the rest of your life, but you'll also have the opportunity to accept Sanat Kumara as your Sat Guru. And so the Order of Seven Rays is right now what Sanat is saying is that what we have in the Order of Seven Rays is we have 3 levels of what we call the Dragon Master Training, through which you will learn all these different practices and establish a good foundation for yourself, spiritual foundation. And what he's saying is that these are very profoundly purifying practices. And after you have completed the 3 levels of them, at that point, you will be ready for a very strong Kundalini activation from him. And so when people want to get involved with the Order of Seven Rays, I first encourage them to go through these 3 levels and then go through the activation. And he says that he would be starting those activations sometime next year, probably in the spring of next year. But also in the Order of Seven Rays, we invite people to come to Sedona and to get activations here, to go to the court of the king, and to actually see the court, because it'll change your life when you see the court, and then you will really know that it's all true, that that there is a king of the world, that this is his court, that Sanat Kumara does exist. You will know all of that if you come to see it. And right now I'm taking tours around Sedona, City of the Star People tours, to show them the remains of this ancient imperial city of temples and palaces and so forth. And I'm also taking them into the court of the king so that they can see that court, see that throne, and they can directly connect with Sanat Kumara, because his energy is there. You don't have to go to Shambhala. You don't have to go anywhere. I mean, you can stay at home and feel his energy, but if you go to the court of the king, you feel it extremely powerful, because his power to control and operate this planet is contained in his throne in the court of the king. It's just unbelievable. I mean, you will not experience it. It's the Kundalini of planet Earth. That's his power. You see, truly, Sanat Kumara is the Fisher King. And if you study the Grail legends, the Fisher King is the one who has this incredible Grail power that he uses in order to make his kingdom prosperous, and so people can live forever and not have any health issues, health problems, right? But when the Fisher King strays from the path of righteousness, he loses his power, and then all kinds of problems enter into his kingdom, and then people start dying young, and then you have famines and pestilences and all the rest. Well, the Fisher King is truly Sanat Kumara. And the throne of the Fisher King truly is here in Sedona, in the court of the king. It's in his throne. The power in his throne travels throughout the whole world. You see, after when the Pleiadians first came to this world, their goal was to activate our planet. And this is why they went to the North Pole at that time, because that's where the crown chakra was. So they wanted to activate the brain of this planet. So they went there and what they did is they created a Shiva lingam. They terraformed a mountain into the shape of a Shiva lingam, which was right over the crown chakra, to activate it. Today, that mountain is in Tibet, because 2 million years later there was an earth shift, and what was in the North Pole travel down to Tibet, and it's known as Mount Kailash. But after they had activated the brains of this world, they went to the root chakra to activate the power of this world. They came here. That's what all these temples and so forth are here. And this is why it's such a powerful place. One of the reasons is they wanted to fully activate the root chakra. This is why you have all the red rock, for example. It's extremely activating. And they found under all the red rock, they found a 2-foot layer of quartz crystal. I mean, it's extremely, extremely powerful. And so Sanat Kumara also created his second court in Sedona so that his own power, his own energy, which is the planetary Kundalini, could emanate from the Sedona vortex all around the planet through the planetary grid. And so it's Sedona that is feeding the whole entire planet through the planetary grid and through his power. He is the planetary logos. Through his power and through his will, the world functions.
Yeah, that's fascinating because I've been to Sedona. I've been to your your temple there in your house, and it's really is powerful. And I know,
but you need to come to the court of the king. It's a totally different experience.
Yeah, no, absolutely. That's definitely on my.
And Sanat tells me that he wants everyone to come now because now is the time. He wants people to know that there is and always has been a king of the world. Because it's such a foreign concept to people, obviously, right? But that's part of moving into the Satya Yuga, the age of truth, to know that there always has been a planetary logos and there will continue to be one. And it has been him and it will be the Kalki avatar. And that he does have 2 thrones. He does have 2 courts, one in Shambhala and the other here in Sedona. And that he is a Pleiadian because that's our heritage, So we are Pleiadians, and so we have a Pleiadian king, And that's what unites us all together. It's that Pleiadian connection that's going to bring us all together in the Satya Yuga.
Sounds wonderful. Alan, do you have any follow-up questions at all? Or Alan? I'm not sure where Alan. Anyway, yeah, I mean it's great. I would highly encourage people to go there. So just to sort of wrap things up, is there any other information you think that people need to know at this time right now in history?
Well, I think that I've given them a good background and some what I believe to be some pretty accurate predictions of what's coming. And the main thing that people can do and should be doing are their spiritual practices, right? Because as we move along, towards Satya Yuga, we want to purify this planet, give it a more spiritual ambiance. But as we move closer to Satya Yuga, there's be more opportunities for that Kundalini activation within all of us. But we have to be ready for it. All right. There'll be more opportunities starting, I believe, 2029 for that Kundalini activation. So if we do our spiritual work now, continue doing it, we'll be ready. And we won't have to wait 80 years for Satya Yuga. It'll start happening. And in fact, within the Order of 7 Rays, it is starting to happen now, where it will be happening next year with Sanat Kumara giving Kundalini activations by distance, from Shambhala. So do your spiritual practices. That is the most important thing. And that's what he tells me, everyone needs to be doing their spiritual practices. And when you're doing their spiritual practices, you will get intuitive insight and intuitive guidance and direction about what is best for you to be doing right now and how best to get through these difficult times.
Mark, just is connected to your Order of 7 Rays. You also have an order of the Melki Taus, the peacock angel. And I know that that's connected to Sanat Kumara. But you also mentioned that the peacock angel also has his throne in Sedona. Could you talk a little bit about the connection between the peacock angel and um, Sanat Kumra and the Kalki?
Right. Well, actually, we have kind of melded, synthesized the order of the peacock angel with the order of the seven rays. So they're kind of one order, because basically the deity, the patron of both is the same. The peacock angel is a form that Sanat Kumra takes. He's taken thousands of forms, and he can do that because Sanat Kumra essentially is pure energy. He can take any form he wants. But one of his main forms that he does take is of the peacock angel, or just the peacock. And he appears to the Azeri people just as a peacock. I guess apparently a talking peacock, I guess, or also as a boy with peacocks emanating from him, and that's been my experience of him. He tells me that although he has two thrones and two courts in this world, only the one in Sedona is his peacock throne. And when you see that court and that throne in 5D, it's totally covered with peacock symbology, and all the vegetation around him turns into peacocks. You will know that you were in the presence of the peacock angel. There's no question. And so in time, that is going to become, and to some degree it already has become, one of the major pilgrimage places for the Azeris themselves. Their main one will always be Leilish, which means the most sacred place in the world. And one reason it is the most sacred is because they say that that's where Sanat Kumra originally landed on this planet as a peacock. But the second most sacred one will be Sedona. And this, of course, so this of course, there are many Yazidis that have fled to the United States because of the persecution that they were getting in Iraq. And there's hundreds, and there'll be thousands in the future. And this will be one of their major sacred places. But it's going to be, a sacred place from many traditions, because Sanat Kumra, for example, he also manifested as the king of the world in a certain form, as the king of the world to the Hopis, right? And sometimes he will manifest in his court here in Sedona as skeleton or a skull. These are actually signs of Sanat Kumra's manifestation among the Hopis. So this will also become very, very sacred to the Hopis. Okay. It's also going to become very, very sacred to the Hindus, because the Hindu savior is the boy with the peacock feathers. It's the peacock angel is a boy with the peacock feathers. So this is his throne here. They know him as Murugan. Right. And so it's going to be a major pilgrimage place for them as well. So it'll be a pilgrimage place for the Hopis, and his manifestation of Hopis, by the way, is called Masao. And his manifestation among the Hindus is Murugan, who manifests as the peacock angel. And so it's going to be a major pilgrimage place all around the planet. But it's going to be Sanat. It is Sanat Kumra, you see, that unites us all together, or the peacock angel that unites us all together, because in every tradition you find in their history that there was a king of the world. And even though you find that the names and the form of all these various kings of the world are different, their legend is almost always the same. So what you're finding is that they're describing the same being. Their characteristics, their descriptions of the same king of the world, but with a different name and different form. And they're all different names and forms of this Sanat Kumara. They're all different forms of this Murugan, this Sanat Kumara. So what we're going to find is that it's Sanat Kumara is what unites us all together. And the throne of all these various kings of the world that are acknowledged by all these different countries, they're going to realize that the throne of that king in their legends is right here in Sedona. So it's going to be a pilgrimage spot for all the cultures around the world eventually.
Yeah, I really look forward to that. Yeah, Alan, do you have any closing comments? I think
it's all very interesting. Is there anything we could look for now? You're saying things are happening. What's like the first thing that we might see that to show us this is all going to happen? I mean, of course, some of it's happened, but what can we really look forward to seeing?
Well, I'm sure for some of us, and I wouldn't say all of us, but for some of us, we're going to have encounters with Pleiadians. Actually, according to the Hopis, the Pleiadians started returning back to this world in the 70s. And you could go out to a Hopi reservation during the 70s and look up in the night sky, and it would be full of ships. And the same thing was happening in Sedona as well. But now most of those ships are fifth dimensional. But the Pleiadians are still there. You just can't see them unless you have fifth dimensional vision. But it is their it's their goal, the Pleiadians' goal, to connect with the right people now on Earth who have a special role to play in the future, and they have a special connection to these Pleiadians. And it'll also be connecting with 144,000. So yeah, we can expect more sightings, more encounters with Pleiadians. There's going to certainly be a lot happening here. And there has been for some time. I talk about them in my book, Sedona City of Star People, that people that feel a Pleiadian connection from around the world are actually coming here and having direct encounters with Pleiadians here. And they're also getting to see the imperial city of this ancient Pleiadian king. And so more and more people also will be seeing Sedona, the fifth dimension of Sedona. And that really started in the 80s, right? Before that, all I knew about Sedona was it's a bunch of vortexes, right? But starting in the 80s, people from around the world being called here, and when they got here, they would open up their third eyes and they would be able to see the imperial city. And that was my first experience in 1987. When I first day here, I was able to see it. So people will be called, many people will be called here, and there'll be many, many more sightings of that. And people are going to say, wow, people are going to start writing about it and talking about it and say, look, I saw it. It's real. This is real. This past history that's been being talked about the king of the world and Pleiadian and so forth. Look, it's real. I saw it. You can go to Sedona, you can see it. But it isn't just Sedona. It's also other places like Kauai. These are temples that were created around the world, such as Kauai, by the Pleiadians in ancient times, and more people are going to be able to see these 5D temples. It isn't just Sedona. I'm telling you, it's all around the world. So gradually, more and more people are going to see what will become eventually the New Jerusalem when all the temples are revealed. Then we're in the New Jerusalem. So more and more people are going to see this, and they're going to see that this is true stuff. This is the real deal.
Mark, you mentioned Sedona is the base chakra of the world, and Shambhala is the crown chakra. Um, and so there's a worldwide sort of connection of temples. What were the other chakras like in their physical locations in the earth today?
Well, he has given me a list of chakras um, that, well, let's see. Well, he talks about Giza as being the sixth chakra. Right now he says that the fifth chakra is actually Paris, because that's why it became the center of all culture around the planet was Paris. He says that that is actually the fifth chakra. The fourth chakra is down in Peru. It's Lake Titicaca, and people that go down there know that that's what they experience is the heart, and that's what happens to them. They get the heart chakra awakening down in Peru. And the second chakra is like in Africa, like in the Congo region. That's the second chakra. And I forget what the third chakra is, but I'll be publishing that information, in the near future, and maybe right away I can post it, once I refresh my memory on that.
Yeah, that's fascinating. And I remember Sean David Morton, who just recently passed away, unfortunately. He used to say that the throat chakra was Los Angeles because it was, the movies. But again, like you're saying, these change sometimes as the energies of a city changes.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, but any other sacred sites that you would suggest that someone on a spiritual path visit? I know India obviously is part of that. And
Well, we lead tourists. We've been leading tourists to Egypt because the energy is still there, and people have very powerful experiences. And we do take them inside the king's chamber and lay them down in the sarcophagus, and people have very strong, powerful experiences. And that's really where the sixth chakra is the Great Pyramid sitting right on top of it. So yeah, certainly there. Peru, and that's why we started taking people to Peru, so they go down there into the vortex of the Andes and have a heart chakra opening. And certainly, of course, as you mentioned, it's India. The temples there, the Sadhgurus, the masters. There's, for ages and thousands of years, they've been building up energy in those temples. This because these temples never closed down. They never stopped with the daily rituals in these places. And so they're just as strong as they ever were. And there's numerous places, sacred places around India. I mean, I could give you a list a mile long of them, but certainly, if you visit the ashram, for example, of Amma, Matamritanandamai, well, that's like a huge vortex in itself. I mean, wherever a Satguru lives, it creates a huge vortex of energy. And so that's one place certainly there. And there are ashrams all over India, and if it's your karma, you could run across a Sadguru, and there are sacred cities and towns like Tiruvannamalai, which is the home of Ramana Maharshi. He's still got his ashram there, and his tomb is there. And Varanasi, the city of Shiva. There's so many of them. There's so many. But everyone's going to be attracted to a different part of India. because it's going to match their aspirations and their own desires and their own frequency, better than others. But yeah, so I mean, those are the main places that I would recommend.
As we move into this the golden age and try to refine our own spiritual energies, does Sanat Kumara, does he mention diet at all, like becoming vegetarian? I assumed in the golden age that most people will become vegetarian and stop killing animals. Is that
Oh
something?
yeah, I mean that's always been part of Sanatana Dharma. I mean, he was the one that brought Sanatana Dharma. That's basically Sanatana Dharma is simply universal principles of righteousness, and universal codes of conduct of righteousness. I just blanked out. Tell me that. Ask me that question again.
No, no, I was just asking a little bit, as you wind down about vegetarian diets because
Oh yeah, sorry. Okay, yeah,
veganism.
vegetarian diet is always important. But if you can eat a little bit of meat or fish, if it's very naturally digestible for you, and there's certain kind of meat and fish that are more sattvic. Basically, if you're on the yoga path, you want to eat food that is conducive to spiritual work, and these are foods like vegetables and grains that are very easy to digest and very light to digest and keep you in a meditative state. The rajasic foods are more like meats and that vegetarians obviously stay away from, because those kind of foods give you a lot of energy. They're really packed with a lot of energy, and they make you more rajasic and more passionate, right, and more sensual. And then there's the tamasic foods that when you eat, they're just junk food. I mean, and that doesn't help you at all, and it makes you feel negative and to do weird and strange things. So someone on the path, ideally, they want to be eating mainly sattvic foods. And certainly, if you take like the Tibetans who throughout their history have been very hardcore in their spiritual practices, occasionally in the winter months, they would eat some meat, not a lot, but a little bit, because they needed to keep warm. They wanted it to help their body to keep warm, So if you're doing it for that purpose, well, that's totally different. So it also, like I said, it also depends what your diet is, depends on where you're living, and your environment, and if you live in the hot desert, your diet's certainly going to be different than if you're living up in Alaska, for example. It also has to be according to that. But in a general way, a general sense, when you're on the spiritual path, what's going to be most helpful and conducive to your spiritual evolution is the lighter sattvic foods that easy to digest. Because if you're on the spiritual path, one thing is you don't want to consume your spiritual energy in digesting the food, and that's what you'll be doing. Because, for example, Kundalini is a form of life force, and if you've got a lot of Kundalini is going to work on digesting food for you if you need it to digest that food. You can use up all your Kundalini by just digesting your food. You see what I'm saying? And then you have to build it up again. But also, if you're on the Kundalini path, you want to have a lot of milk products, because milk products are going to give you the fats that you need, that the Kundalini can feed off of. All right. That the milk products are food for the Kundalini, in other words. Right. They are going to the milk products are going to build up your seminal fluids, your sexual fluids, which will then transmute into Kundalini. So if you're doing a lot of Kundalini work and your Kundalini is really active, you should eat more milk products.
Well, that's fascinating, Mark. I really appreciate this. And this is great. I mean, I think it's a great first start of a conversation that we all should be having on this. And I foresee us doing a lot more of these. Um, yeah, I thank you very much for providing guidance to spiritual students, and I'd highly encourage anyone watching to look up the Order Seven Rays, and I'll put that in the description of the YouTube video. To study with Mark directly and maybe see him in Sedona. I took your Star People tour, and it was really a life-changing experience. Is how we first met. It really is an amazing, you walk away from that tour a different person, really. It's just not just the information, but the energy.
Yeah, because not only are you seeing the remains of the ancient imperial city, you're also getting downloads about the builders, about the Kumara, so many things that we've been talking about
Exactly.
today.
Yeah, you got to go there in person. But anyway, Alan, do you have any final words? I think let me see where Alan went. But yeah, we appreciate it, and thank you very much for joining us. And
Yeah, thanks for having me on. Right now, Sanat Kumara is giving me downloads so that I can share them with other people. He wants this information to get out into the world. So I appreciate you being a vehicle for that.
I appreciate that. Okay, well, namaste, Mark. Appreciate it.
Namaste to you.